Okay, welcome back everyone. I am here today with Larry Davids from London in the UK. But I did see on his website that he's been all over the world really. I saw mentions of Montreal, Paris, Vancouver and now London. So welcome Larry. And he's a psychic medium, a reiki master and a spiritual and sound healer. And he's been doing it for over 15 years. So very nice to have you with me today. And so what I always ask all my guests first is, how did you start on this spiritual path? What led you towards it?
Well, thank you, and hello, Ursula, and to all your listeners out there. And a good question. When I was a young child, I was always aware of spirit because when I used to play with my toys in my bedroom, I was always aware, I felt energy, like things were looking at me. Well, I call it things because I couldn't physically see them with my eyes. But you know, when you sense things, so I'd be looking in my room, feeling energy or presence, and I would talk to them. For some reason, as a child, I must have known without realizing it. There must have been like people looking at me. And then as I got a bit older, when I was playing my guitar all the time, I'd see leprechauns always in groups of three running by me all the time, and they were all in misty white. And at night, they'd be going through my sister's bedroom. The doors were closed. So, of course, I go, oh, one just went through. How did they do that? Go through a closed door. So, of course, I'd open the door, wake up my sister. My parents would be yelling at me, saying, what are you doing? Waking up your sister. Go back to bed. And I'd see these leprechauns all the time. But, of course, in those days, I couldn't tell people, well, I tried. They told me I was crazy. So you learn not to say things because you'd think, how come nobody else can see this? And then from the leprechauns, I started seeing what's called objective seeing with my physical eyes, spirit. So they would look just like you, but they wouldn't speak. They would just show up out the blue as if they're staring at me, and then they would just disappear. And it would last for maybe a minute or less. And I always used to go, huh, you know, and that's, and then I think I was about 14. Thanks to my mom, she used to get all these books out about mediums. So I used to read the books like by Enid Twigg, all the classics, these mediums that are now gone. And I used to think, wow, mediumship, it just felt like music. It just felt like a natural calling. I don't know why. It was like a magnet. I was always, even though I became a full-time musician, on the side, I was always reading books or trying to find courses somewhere about learning about healing or mediumship. And, you know, it wasn't, I did it, or I didn't do it because I wanted to be a medium. There was an inward pull, as if a magnet is pulling you and you've no idea why. You just feel drawn to that subject, as it were.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from the people that come here to talk to me. So you mentioned your mum had books on mediumship. Was she a medium as well, or was she just interested?
No, she was interested, but she was very intuitive because when my dad passed away, and she even saw her grandparents, she once was on a meditation retreat and she was lying in bed and she said she kind of freaked out because her grandparents came picking up her clothes, saying, gosh, today's fashion has really changed. And as you know, when you have a vision, it's so real, it stays with you for life. You never forget it. And when my dad passed away, she would comment on the phone, oh, I saw your father walk through the TV, through the walls into my bedroom. I said, did you follow him? She goes, no, because when I do, he's no longer there.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. She must have known somewhere. Yeah,
So
gosh.
she believed
Because
in
they
it,
do
but
sometimes say that mediumship or intuition runs in the family. Yeah, that it's like
mm,
it gets passed down through the generations. So it is
yeah, but
well
if she
possible.
wanted to, I used to tell her as a joke, I should be your manager. I said, you have what's called objective seeing, because she didn't know the terminology. And I said, you clearly seeing them physically with your eyes. Oh, no, I'll leave that to you. She says, that's not my job. That's your job, she used to say.
So do you still see them with your physical eyes, or has it now moved to like your third eye?
No, now it's more what's called subjective, where I see it with my third eye. Sometimes I still see auras and etheric field with my physical eyes. And but with spirit, it's not as often. Like I used to see it quite on a regular basis of, you know, with my physical eyes. But now I would say it's exactly say a lot of it's to do with inner seeing, basically.
Hmm. And so you say you studied music, and
Yeah,
so does that come in with your spiritual work at all? Do you like
yeah.
work from
But
songs
what I didn't
or?
realize is that music and mediumship is all to do with vibration frequency. And when I used to be a full-time musician or studying at university, the teachers, or even my private lessons, I play guitar and violin, the teachers would call me a genius. And I used to think, I'm not a genius. If I was a genius, I'd be like Mozart, who just would come up with these amazing compositions.
Hmm.
And but I didn't realize when I used to do music, I would hear all the instruments or everything in a song, and people would go, how do you hear all that information so quick? So I don't know, I just hear it in my head. And it's like that with mediumship. When I do my demming or my one-to-ones, people, gosh, you give so much information. How do you get all that so quickly? And I always used to say, well, I don't know. It just seems to come. So I think it's like music, because it's vibration frequency, must be a great precursor to maybe spiritual work, because you're working with different faculties. You're working with non-tangible energy, because music, you have to feel it. You could be the most technically brilliant, say, guitar player, and the audience would go, gee, technically that person is brilliant. I don't know, there's something I couldn't quite get into his music. Yeah, because they're not playing with feeling or the soul. And the same with mediumship. You could be the best medium, give all this amazing factual information. Oh, I have a father here, 72, and blah, blah, blah. And people go, I don't know, you got the information right, but I couldn't feel the presence of that spirit communicator. It's the same thing. Mediumship, as you know, it's about, well, it's not about how much information or facts we give, it's about the feeling. So, and that's why music is fantastic, because either we love or we don't love the song. Everybody loves different kind of music. And same with mediumship. We can't bring everybody's spirit communicator in, because maybe vibrationally we're not the right match. For example, in life, as earthlings or human beings, we don't have friends of every kind of like caliber, like criminals and bank robbers or drug addicts, alcoholics, because if we don't do that ourselves, we don't hang out with those kind of people. So the vibration is not a match, as it were. So for example, all my friends I have are either into music or into some kind of spiritual career, whether they're healers, psychic mediums, whether they're full-time or part-time. So we have a common base, a common ground to talk about. So for example, I don't have any friends who say, oh, I'm going to rob a bank next week. Do you want to join me? Or something like that.
No.
I don't like those kind of people.
No, although I do feel that we should mix with all sorts, well, maybe not the bank robbers, but you know, all layers and all different sorts of people, because it does give us a wonderful variation in life. You know, it gives us a new outlook in life. So with your music, what because you said on your website you're a spiritual and sound healer, so I suppose that is musical influence. Is it, do you do drumming or you play music for people? What?
Well, when I used to be a full-time musician, people come up to me after a show and they say, God, you know, the way you play, you just touch me in my heart. I feel like I'm healed. They used to use these words I wasn't used to hearing in those days. And I used to think, oh, that's weird. It's a concert. I didn't do any healing. But yet they kept using words like that. And eventually I went back to school and study to become a music therapist, which is combining therapy with sound or music. And the woman who was auditioning me, the therapist, said she had a box of tissues while I was auditioning on the violin. I was doing an improvisation, and she had these tissues wiping her eyes because she was crying. And I was thinking during my audition, oh my God, I must be terrible. This woman's crying nonstop. How I finally went, you penetrated my heart. She was like just going on and on about this piece of music I played. And she says, who composed that? I said, oh, I just made that up. It's called improvising. You did? She said. She goes, what do you call it? I didn't have a title because I just made it up. So I quickly, The Boy Who Fell Out the Tree. And because she is a therapist, she started psychoanalyzing my titles.
So you use that now to help people, then you just play music and
yeah. Sometimes like and instead of doing, if the church is open to it, they play my violin, I'll play what I feel is needed, you know, based on what I feel. And people always say, gosh, the way you played, I don't know what it is about you. They say, because they don't know the right words to you, they say, you made me feel more relaxed, or you made me feel different. Is the ambiance in the building, basically.
Yeah. Music can do that. And the next thing I wanted to ask is, you know, because I saw your website, I will write it in the description. It's www.larrydavids.com, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
LarryMedium.com, yeah.
Larry Medium, sorry. And I'll put the correct link down, don't worry. And, you know, you are a professional medium. I think you do it full time. And so with people that work full time, something that interests me always is how do you combine it? Because I know, because of Jason's work as a medium, I usually do a lot of the behind the scenes work, and because it's more business-like, and that way he can stay more focused on the spiritual side. So how do you combine that for yourself? How do you mix the two? Because they're like a bit on different ends of the scale, if you like.
Yeah. Well, luckily, I always follow my passion. So, you know, I don't like to use the word master, but that's what they give you when you study Reiki and you can teach it. So it just means really you can teach Reiki. So I hate using that word. When they say, "Are you a Reiki master?" I go, "Yeah, but it doesn't mean I'm a master. Far from it. There's so much to learn." I say, let's replace that word with teacher, meaning I can teach it. And sound healer, I'm a sound healer and a sound healer teacher. I studied that through the College of Sound Healing in the UK. So with sound healing, it's not about actually performing. For example, if you were a client, I would assess you, and I could either use the voice for scanning your energy body, your chakras, or I might feel like a lot of tightness in the throat chakra, and I would like start emitting sounds with the voice, or using crystal bowls, Himalayan bowls. Now I work primarily with tuning forks because they're small and compatible. Those Himalayan bowls and crystal bowls, gosh, they're very heavy, and you know it's very hard to transport those things around. So my intuition said, why don't you just leave that behind? In gongs, you know, they call me a gong master. Far from me, I'm not a gong master either, but when you study these courses, they give you a piece of paper with these fancy titles. And so I call myself a gong practitioner because, again, even with gongs, no matter what you do, there's always something to keep learning and developing. So, and with gongs, they're huge and they're heavy, and it takes time to set all these things up. If you do a gong bath, for example, and then you have to find a venue because, you know, it generates a lot of sound. So you can't just do it in your flat or your home, because then dogs start howling, the cats and the neighbors go, what the heck's that racket? Because, you know, if a non-initiated person, they'll go, what's that noise again? They don't realize, because it's not music. It's not like singing a pop song. It's like,
No.
you know, just strange sounds, for example. So now I work with my sound healing, and I use what's called my tuning forks. And but with my music, I still compose music because I like, it's in my blood. It's funny, I've always tried giving up music in my mediumship career, thinking I want to be like a normal person, just have a normal day job, go out and drink, eat all kinds of food, and not worry about a thing. And it never works. It always feels like something's missing in my life. And I don't know, it's as if the universe has prevented me from being what's called, quote, a normal person. Nope, you have to go back to doing your music and your spiritual work. So now I've learned to balance the two. So I just do my music all the time and my spiritual work. So for example, I've got my violin here for you, and I'm just going to play you a bit of violin here.
Yeah, oh, great.
And I'm just going to play the first thing. It's a bit like demming. This is what I like about music. When you dem, or when I dem, I should say, I have no preconceived idea. I know some mediums, maybe they like to try and bring in links before they go on platform, but I don't. I just look at the crowd and wait. And same with the one-to-one. If you're one-to-one, I wouldn't be panicking, go, oh my gosh, I hope I can bring somebody in for Ursula. I would just, you know, blend with your energies and, oh, Ursula, I feel like, you know, Father's coming in. Can you understand Father in the spirit world? Can you actually? See, that's how good I am. Anyway, so same with music. I'm going to, actually, if this was a real link and you said no to Father, I would still stay with that, because I definitely feel I have a gentleman with you. And I could say to you, well, you must know grandfather who is paternal towards you. So would you understand Father, even though you say no to biological father, a grandfather who's like a father to you? Would that make sense?
That could be someone, yes.
Oh, it could be. Okay, and then I would have to obviously unfold and give you more evidence, because it's nice to get a yes, not it could be. But anyway, so for the music, I'm just going to play anything right now and see, again, what just comes up as I'm here on the computer with you.
I can't, there's no sound coming, Larry.
Oh, that's a shame. That's the problem with Zoom thing. It's picking up the audio, but it's interesting. It's not picking up the violin. That's a bit funny.
Yeah, it is. It's no sound. It's a shame because I can see you playing.
Let me take the mute off, which dampens the sound, and see if that makes a difference. We'll try that again. Maybe I'll try and play closer to the computer mic, see if there's any. Actually, put your thumb up as I'm playing, so I can see if you can hear if there's any music. So I don't know if any of that came out on the actual Zoom. Did you hear anything on the Zoom?
I could, when you were moving away from the computer, it was a little bit more quiet, but I could hear it was a bit melancholic, the tune. It's kind of happy, sad, you know?
Well, yeah, it's like
Makes you think of past days.
like a laid back kind of melody, you could say. So that's the energy I felt. I should like impart, as it were, as opposed to something high energy, you see? So you could say to me as a human, well, why did you choose that piece? And I could say to you, I don't know, that's what I felt needed to come out. So again, you could say this is where it transfers over to psychic mediumship. You can't guarantee what kind of link you'll bring in, as you know, and whatever comes out, you know, we're trained to, we'll just give what you get, what you feel. Don't try and let the mind analyze all that.
No, exactly. So that's beautiful. Thank you for playing that. So we spoke about your life and your things. So what are your plans for the future? Do you have any special things coming up, or you know, we're allowed to travel a little bit again, so maybe you have some travels in the planning, or
well,
where can we expect you?
With the lockdown, it's actually worked in my favor, because I never heard of Zoom to the lockdown, because when it happened in the UK in March of 2020, for example, the college where I work at and all my private clients, I used to work on Skype. I never heard of Zoom. And so I had to download Zoom. And I went on YouTube. There was only 3 videos in those days, 2 years ago, on how to use Zoom. And now there's like, oh my gosh, there's thousands of videos how to do anything on Zoom. So it's funny how things are quickly evolved. So what it's allowed me to do, I didn't even know you could do DEMS on Zoom. So I've been very busy for the past 2 years doing church DEMS, church demonstrations of mediumship, and what's called live events, where it's just, you know, just do mediumship without what's called a spiritual church service attached to it. So it's as if I've been thrown in the deep end without realizing it. When the churches started contacting me, I said, well, I've never DEM'd on Zoom. I don't even know if I can do it. I was honest with the churches. I thought, gee, I've never done that. I don't even know if I can do it. And I did it, and I was very surprised. I thought, wow, I can't believe it actually worked on Zoom. And then, of course, when you do something, words spread quickly. So I've been inundated for the past 2 years. Oh, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do a fundraiser? So I've been doing a lot of DEMS on demonstration online on Zoom. And in London, the churches keep opening up, closing down, opening up, closing down. You know, as soon as COVID's gone up, oh, that's it. We're going to close the churches again. So for the past 2 years, I've been DEMing in the churches whenever they're open. And what's funny, in London specifically, a lot of mediums seem to have become scared to go back to DEMing. I don't know if it's because they're actually scared of COVID, or maybe they think, oh, I can't be bothered anymore to travel. Because, you know, in London is huge. So it does take a lot of time to travel from one church to the next. I rely on the tubes and the buses. So it does take a long time to get around. And then what I've been doing, of course, is teaching on Zoom as well. Because with Zoom, as with many teachers who weren't able to teach in the spiritual churches or in their venues, they've had to think, how else can I use my skill sets I was using? But now everything's online. So again, without trying, people saying, can you do this online? And I would say, gee, I've never done that before. So it's been, for the past 2 years, a sense of discovery, learning to do things differently, not just me, but with many other people.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've also been designing what's called online courses, as many people have as well, because not because I wanted to, but it's because people keep asking me things. Like when I was at university teaching music, my students would say, oh, wow, do you have any music books out? I said, nah, I can't be bothered writing music books, too much work. But because they kept asking me, I started journaling everything when I'd finished teaching. And that's how I'd start writing what's called, like, for example, my guitar books. And the same with my spiritual work. People keep going, whether it's at a church DEM or an online DEM, oh, do you have any books out? And same thing, nah, I can't be bothered to put books out. It's too much work. Would you teach? And I'd say, nah, I'm not teaching. And I said, there's enough teachers out there. Oh, no, we want to study with you. So just by being, I don't want to use the word pressurized, but these people who keep asking questions, it's as if I've been gently pushed to do things I never would have thought of doing. So now I'm just wrapping up this online course I'm doing, because so many people say, have you got anything online? And like I always think people, when they first ask me, I always say, no, I can't be bothered. That's too much work. Well, I don't know how to do an online course. But it's amazing. When you put your mind to something, you'll discover that the right people come on your path and say, oh, I could help you with that. And then you think, really? So that's what's been happening in my world for the past 2 years since the lockdown, really.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing with us. I know the online stuff. We've been working on those as well because of the lockdown. So Yeah, so thank you for joining me today, and I will put your website below if people want to know more about you, and they can find out. And thank you very much for joining me. It's been a very interesting conversation, as I think most of the talks are that I have with people, because it's usually interesting stuff that you're dealing with. So thank you very much, Larry.
Well, thank you so much, Ursula, and thank you for everyone who's been listening as well.